Today we will be focusing on Unit 2, Designing Assessment Questions for Multimedia Learning. This module is part of the SUST3DFASHION project module on creating online assessment tools. What we'll be looking at today is how to come up with meaningful, authentic assessments that actually help the learning process, not just check what people remember. This session will give you the tools and understanding needed to design effective assessment strategies in multimedia learning. We'll be focusing on how assessments can really support learning rather than just measure it, particularly in creative and vocational training contexts. As we go through the module, you'll see how to use different types of questions, including performance-based and peer assessment techniques. These are especially useful when we want to evaluate practical or design-oriented skills. Alright, after this brief introduction, let's jump in. However, before we really get going, let's just take a moment to define what we mean by assessment. It's not just about handing out grades, far from it. Assessment actually plays a key role in guiding the learning journey. It helps learners reflect, stay engaged, and, when it's done right, it can even spark their curiosity and push them to explore the content more deeply. So, there are two main types of assessment we should keep in mind. First, we've got formative assessments. These happen during the learning process. They're great for giving feedback and helping learners improve as they go. Then there are summative assessments, which usually come at the end of a learning unit or course, and they're used to check if the learning goals have actually been achieved. Both types are super important and work together to support the overall learning experience. In multimedia learning environments, assessments must go beyond memorization. They need to address the learner's creativity, technical skills, and their ability to design interactive and engaging digital content. Especially in vocational education and training, assessment helps shape behavior, foster skill development, and prepare learners for real-world challenges. Now, let's take a look at 4 key aspects we want to consider when designing assessments: knowledge recall, skill application, critical thinking, and reflection. When we bring all of these together, we get a much fuller picture of what the learner can actually do, not just what they remember, but how they actually apply it, think through it, and reflect on their own process. Before we go any further, it's good to keep in mind that there are different types of assessment questions, and each one is designed to target specific skills or competencies. You'll come across formats like multiple choice, short answer, scenario-based questions, and performance tasks, and each plays a unique role in the learning process. We'll take a closer look at these different formats a bit later in the session, so you'll get a better sense of when and how to use them effectively. Another thing that really makes a difference is matching your assessments to the learner's level. If someone is just starting out, they usually need more structure and repetition to build confidence. As learners move to an intermediate level, they are ready for more integrated, slightly more complex tasks. And when you're working with advanced learners or experts, it's all about giving them autonomy and challenges that mirror real-life situations. When you're working with beginners, it's really helpful to keep assessments structured and supportive. Things like quizzes, self-assessments, peer feedback, or even short reflection activities work really well. They help reinforce the basics and give learners a low-pressure space to explore and make mistakes. For example, you might use a simple multiple-choice question like, which principle helps reduce extraneous cognitive load? The correct answer would be the redundancy principle. Questions like that are great for checking if learners are grasping key concepts. Once learners move to an intermediate level, they're ready for more complex tasks. At this stage, things like scenario-based questions, case studies, and peer feedback are really effective. These kinds of activities help them start connecting theory with real-world application, and they begin thinking more like designers. For instance, you might ask a question like, you're designing a technical training module. How would you optimize the multimedia content? That kind of question encourages them to apply what they've learned in a practical, thoughtful way. When it comes to advanced learners, assessments should really start to mirror real-world scenarios. At this level, projects like usability tests, developing full e-learning modules, or tackling complex problem-solving tasks give learners the chance to show autonomy, creativity, and deeper understanding. For example, you might challenge them with something like, create a 15-minute learning simulation. Use multimedia design principles, explain the decisions you made, and reflect on how it supports user engagement. Tasks like this closely resemble what they'd be doing in a professional setting. Let's take a look at case study 1, which is a great example of a novice-level task. Here's the scenario. Learners are just getting started with instructional design, so we want to ease them into the topic without overwhelming them. The task: they complete a short quiz on cognitive load principles, and then they reflect on any mistakes they made. Why does this work so well? First, it helps build a solid foundation. It introduces key concepts in a manageable way. Second, the quiz is low stakes, which makes it feel safe for learners to take risks and explore without the fear of being wrong. And finally, the reflection part is key. It encourages metacognition, basically, learners thinking about their own thinking, which helps deepen understanding over time. Case study 2 is designed for intermediate-level learners. Here's the scenario. Learners are tasked with designing a branching scenario using H5P, a great tool for creating interactive content. The task involves using signaling and segmentation to guide users through a workplace safety simulation. So not only are learners thinking about how to structure content, but they're also applying multimedia learning principles in a very hands-on way. Why does this approach work? First, it helps learners move from theory to practice. They're not just learning about the principles, they're actively using them. Second, this kind of task integrates multiple multimedia principles at once, which deepens their understanding. And if you add peer review into the mix, it also encourages collaboration and helps learners see different approaches to solving the same challenge. So really, this task is a great bridge between learning the theory and applying it in a realistic, engaging context. Finally, case study 3, which is aimed at expert-level learners. The scenario: learners are challenged to develop an entire gamified learning module, so we're talking about something much more advanced here. Their task is to design a 15-minute interactive training simulation, test it with users, gather feedback, and then refine their design based on what they learn. It's a full cycle, from creation to iteration. Why is this such a powerful task? First, it gives learners a chance to demonstrate real-world problem solving. They're making decisions, testing ideas, and improving based on actual user input. It also encourages creativity while keeping usability front and center. And importantly, it fits perfectly within a performance-based assessment approach. Learners are showing what they can do, not just what they know. This kind of assignment mirrors the kinds of challenges they'll face in professional environments. So it's not just assessment, it's preparation for the real world. But here's the big question: how do we make sure our assessments are actually high quality? Well, there are a few key things to look out for. First, they need to be valid and reliable. Content validity means the assessment really aligns with what you're trying to teach. It reflects the learning objectives. Construct validity is about making sure you're measuring the right skills or knowledge. And reliability, that's all about consistency, making sure the results are stable across different learners and situations. Another great way to keep assessments effective is by mixing up the types of questions we use. For example, multiple choice questions work well for checking basic concepts. Short answer questions are better for exploring reasoning or explanations. Then you've got scenario-based questions for testing problem-solving skills, and performance-based tasks when you want to assess hands-on, practical abilities. Each type has its purpose, and together they help us get a clearer picture of how well learners really understand the material. Having said that, let's now go through a few practical examples. Here's a quick quiz, so go ahead, pause the video, take a moment, and think through your answers at your own pace. Question 1. Which of these tasks is best for assessing multimedia content creation? Option 1. Multiple choice. Option 2. Essay. Option 3. Performance-based. Option 4. True, false. Take a second to think about it. The best answer is performance-based tasks. Why? Because they really reflect the practical, hands-on skills that are needed in real work situations. They show what a learner can actually do, not just what they know. Question 2. What improves the authenticity of an assessment? Option 1. Real-world tasks. Option 2. Design definitions. Option 3. MCQs only. Option 4. ICT knowledge. Now, while multiple choice questions, MCQs, Option 3, can be useful for checking basic understanding or quick recall. Relying on them alone doesn't really capture the depth or complexity of what learners can do. They don't offer much insight into creative thinking, problem solving, or how someone might approach a real-world challenge. That's why the best answer is option 1, real-world tasks. These types of assessments mimic actual professional scenarios and give learners a chance to apply their knowledge in a more meaningful and authentic way. It's all about bridging the gap between theory and practice.
So, building on what we just talked about, how real-world tasks can make assessments more authentic, performance-based tasks take that idea even further. In fact, they allow us to evaluate the whole design process, from planning all the way to execution. These kinds of tasks are great for assessing aspects like user interaction, creative choices, and how well multimedia elements are brought together. For example, you might ask learners to create a 5-minute instructional video. In that case, you can assess criteria like how clearly the message is communicated, whether a storyboard was used, and if accessibility features are included. It's a task that blends creativity with critical thinking. Another powerful option is to have learners build a complete e-learning module, using tools like Articulate 360. Here you can focus the assessment on things like navigation, interactivity, and overall usability. And don't forget that usability testing itself can be part of the assessment. Finally, through peer review, learners get the chance to critique and improve each other's work, which not only sharpens their own understanding but also builds collaboration and reflection skills. To really make everything work together, we need to make sure our assessments are directly tied to the learning objectives. So for example, if the goal is to check understanding, a multiple choice question might be the way to go. If we want learners to apply what they've learned, then a hands-on task makes more sense. And if the goal is to encourage evaluation and feedback, peer review is a great fit. This approach is known as constructive alignment. It's all about making sure there's a clear connection between what we want learners to achieve, how we teach, and how we assess. When all three elements are aligned, learning goals, teaching methods, and assessments, we create a much more effective learning experience. When you're designing your assessments, it helps to run through a quick checklist to make sure you're on the right track. Ask yourself, are they valid? Meaning, do they actually measure what they're supposed to? Are they reliable? Will different learners or the same learner at different times get consistent results? Are they aligned? Do the assessment tasks reflect the learning objectives and the way the content was taught? Are they authentic? Do they resemble real-world tasks and challenges that learners might face outside the classroom? Are they reflective? Do they give learners a chance to think critically about their own learning process? If you can answer yes to all of these, then chances are you've created an assessment that's not just well-designed, it's also learner-centered. That means it doesn't just measure success. It actually supports learning, encourages growth, and builds skills that matter beyond the course. As we're coming toward the end of our session, let's take a moment to pull everything together. What we've seen today is that assessment goes far beyond just assigning grades. It's a key part of the learning journey. When done thoughtfully, it guides learners, deepens their understanding, and prepares them for real-world challenges. So, as you design your own assessments, remember to keep the focus on learning, not just on evaluation. Align every question or task with clear, meaningful skills. And whenever possible, ground your assessments in authentic, real-life situations. By doing this, you're not just creating activities. You're creating meaningful experiences that help learners grow, reflect, and succeed. So, what's next? Now that you've explored how to design effective assessment questions, it's time to take things a step further. In the next part of the module, we'll dive into online assessment tools, like Google Forms, Moodle, and Blackboard. We'll explore the key features and functionalities of each platform, looking at how they can support different types of assessments and help you put your ideas into practice in a digital environment. By understanding how these tools work, you'll be better equipped to choose the right platform for your learners and your goals, making your assessments not only effective, but also engaging and accessible. Thanks so much for being part of this session. I hope these ideas help you design assessments that truly make a difference in your teaching. Let's keep the momentum going.